and speaking of the 80s, I mean, these former cast members of Saturday Night Live, like they dominated the 80s. Like so many movies are made with former cast members. But I want to talk about someone else who dominated the 80s, and that is John Landis. Jason, tell me about tell me about John Landis. Who's John Landis for you?
That's a great question. I am definitely a fan. When I was going over his filmography, Michael Jackson's Thriller just jumped out at me. I don't know why I'd forgotten he'd done that, but that was huge. That was a game changer for me. Particularly I'm going to share a little bit of insight.
Might even be bigger than the Blues Brothers.
Yeah, I was going to make the argument this is like the most influential thing he ever did. Like, I think Thriller, it was huge in the way it's like affected music videos and everything. Yeah. But sorry, Jason, continue.
No, not at all. No, please comment away because this is your podcast. I was going to say,
but you are an esteemed guest.
It was, and it's funny because you look it up on IMDb and it says video short, and it's like, oh yeah, this is like it's a short film. Yeah, it's a story unto itself. And I remember watching it, going, this is really cool. The makeup effects, the dancing. I was a dancer myself at that time, and how influential just the choreography unto itself was. But then you put a story on top of it, and the great makeup effects, and the wonderful direction, and the costuming, right? I mean, everything about it. Yeah. So that's Landis, right? He's at the head of that. So then you look at obviously I love Trading Places. That's one I need to revisit soon. I think someone had thrown out earlier, Three Amigos. That one, hell yeah. Excellent.
I will not let you slander Three Amigos.
I am a huge fan. Oh, so like the wind. Coming to America. I mean, John Landis put his stamp on 80s movies and culture. There's no question about it. I'm sure someone will mention some, he had very, very rough times amidst all of this, but I'll let someone else handle that. But I think, what I want to say is he actually had an influence. Correct me if I'm wrong, Bill Bant, but we were at the University of Miami. We listened to someone speak, and forgive me because I forget who it was, but John Landis had come up in a conversation speaking of George Lucas and the Star Wars trilogy. And he was, contemporaries, obviously, with Spielberg and Lucas at the time. And Star Wars had come out, and now come around to 1980. Empire Strikes Back is about to release, but this is before when I think Empire Strikes Back was about to start filming and whatnot. And Landis said to Lucas, "Hey, why aren't there any black people in your movies?"
What did George say?
He's like, "Oh, yeah, well." Here's Lando Calrissian.
Give me Lando.
Yeah. There you go.
What are you talking about? Here's Lando.
Right?
Billy D. Williams on the phone.
Matt, that was a phenomenal George Lucas impression. I don't want that to go unnoticed.
What are you talking about?
We'll have to let Patrick know about that in case you need to fill in for the George Lucas talk show. That was spot on. That was spot on. Yeah, I mean, as far as my relationship with Landis, I've seen quite a few. I had to pull up his filmography. I think I got him confused often with Harold Ramis. Like I would get them like mixed up, So my very first thought was like, oh, I love him in Orange County. It's like, that's not the guy. This is a different guy. This is John Landis. Trading Places would probably be my favorite. I really loved Animal House. I think, to Matt's point, like there's just so much that he did in the 80s coming to America. Like he obviously had an influence there. And I think his success in the 80s also kind of led to all these cameos, because I don't think a lot of these people show up for a lesser director, quote unquote, and I think Landis kind of brought that to this movie, and I think the movie's better for it.
Well, Jason mentioned it. He is responsible for directing one of the most influential movies in my upbringing, by way of my grandfather showing it to me when I was a lad. But that's the Three Amigos. It really set the stage for me as far as like my sense of humor, and just it was one of the first movies that I shared with my grandpa. So that was like, it's always been really important to me. I haven't seen it in a long time, and probably a lot of the complaints I have about Blues Brothers, I'd probably also have about Three Amigos, I would imagine. But again, I haven't seen it in a while. But for that movie alone, I'll always be grateful for Mr. Landis.
Nice.
Like and subscribe if you're out there, John.
Thank you, John. What about you, Bill?
Yeah, I mean, John Landis had such an amazing run from like 1977 to 1989. Start with Kentucky Fried Movie, which is one of those sketch comedy films. And then they kind of did a pseudo sequel, Amazon Women on the Moon, which I don't know if a lot of people have seen. I mean, a lot of that comedy would not work in this day and age kind of thing. I know you guys were talking about Blazing Saddles in one of your past pods, but yeah, it's kind of that kind of comedy in there. Everything's just thrown against the wall and you just kind of see what sticks.
Right.
But, he's mostly remembered for his comedy, Trading Places with Blues Brothers too, but he did one of the most essential horror films of the 80s, which is American Werewolf in London.
Oh, yeah.
Which to me is still the werewolf transformation scene. I still don't think it's been topped. The special effects on that with Rick Baker is amazing. It still gives me chills. It's the first time you really felt the person getting transferred going through the pain of transformation. Yeah. You were just used to the old thing when you just see the hair all of a sudden appear and that's it. Yeah. Where this guy is, the fevers, you could hear all the bones. It's impressive. And
I still need to see it.
Yeah. And just even going back to Thriller, like I remember the first time I saw Thriller. There was a hangout by our school. It's called the United Skates of America. It was a skating rink, and you would, go skate around. And every time they would show that video, everybody would get off the skating rink to watch it because they had a little thing in the middle with the big screen, and you would watch it there. And that video gave me nightmares. It really did.
What a very 80s experience.
That's awesome.
That's incredible.
Yeah, Spies Like Us was another one that he did. That I know. That's one of those movies. If you were to at a certain age and you saw it, you loved it. I don't know how it plays now, but he just had an amazing run. It's just everything that he made during that period was gold.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, United Skates of America. That's a great name for a skating rink.
Yeah,
it seems like low hanging fruit, but it works so well.
Yeah.
No, I love that. Jason mentioned this. I was scrolling through John Landis's Wikipedia page. I had to look at all the things that he had done. And the reason why I was looking him up, I mean, outside of this episode, was because I feel like for taking a beloved sketch like the Blues Brothers on Saturday Night Live, even though this movie didn't get like the same type of budget and there are a lot of question marks around it, it wasn't like he was handed this big budget project. These are still beloved characters that he had to do justice, in some way. And he had to do Chicago justice. He had to do blues justice. Like, there are a lot of things at work that he needed to do well. And I thought he hit it out of the park. So I just wanted to look at like what his other projects were. And I was blown away at, his resume. But there was a big stain on his Wikipedia page. And it was this incident in filming The Twilight Zone. And I don't know how many of you guys have looked this up, but during the filming of The Twilight Zone, and I had never heard this before, there was an incident where whether it had to do with the special effects or some other factor, but what ended up happening is the helicopter blade came out of control and killed 3 people on set. 2 of them were children.
Whoa!
Like a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old.
2 kids.
Wow!
Damn,
so
I'd never heard that.
Yeah,
so
it's very tragic.
And so there's this big thing about it. He was charged with involuntary manslaughter along with several other members of the crew. And that's a tricky place to be in. It's like,
Damn.
Yeah, I don't really know how to articulate thoughts around it other than, how do you recover from that? And it seems like he did. That was in 82.
There you go. Yeah, absolutely.
And his career, he did some of his best work after that even. So his career did recover. But even just as a John Landis fan, it's like, it's one of those questions that you have to ask yourself, like, how do I reconcile this? Like, do you blame the director? Like, who owns the blame? Because you know that there's a family out there who despises John Landis. John Landis is the bad guy to somebody out there.
Yeah.
And probably like those feelings, are probably warranted, but it's just like one of those really ugly situations that it's bad for everybody.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's something that it's on his Wikipedia page for those looking up John Landis. But that was an interesting bit in his career that I noticed. But yeah, as I said, it seems like he rebounded. I believe charges were dropped from that. And so now we just get to look at, the other movies that he's done for us.
Mm.
That's bananas. I had never heard that before.
Yeah, that's a tough one. It's I can't imagine what everyone involved had to go through, and obviously what he had to go through. And it is well documented at this point that it had such a grave and tremendous effect on him personally. But to be able, like you said, Matt, to recover from it, he obviously has shown some resilience. And but that was a dark time there for a bit. And but he came out of it, and now we get to celebrate all the good work that he's doing and continuing to do. And speaking of American Werewolf in London, I mean, he's supposed to be remaking that, correct, Bill? That's on his IMDb. It's like currently.
Oh wow!
Is it in production right now?
Yeah, it says announced. Executive producer. It's announced.
Okay, so that's the word. But also, I wanted to comment on one thing you're saying, Matt. How deftly he handled this particular film, being the Blues Brothers. I mean, way back when, just off of, Animal House, he's coming into this kind of thing, which is just a mixture of some, you're throwing a few different genres in the blender. How do you juggle this and make sense of it and make it entertaining and make it? Because I was thinking about 80s films in general. This is what I miss about the 80s. Bill and I comment about this all the time, is how we just didn't know as much then, which was a blessing. Ignorance truly was bliss, meaning I went to the movies for absolute escapism. I am going along for the ride. And this is that type of movie.
Yeah.
I'm just going for the ride. I see where it takes me.
Right.
This is a blast. So
that's how I approach every movie I go to, for all the reasons that you're describing or intimating. Is like, I just like to just see what happens, like the more expectation I have, the more chance I have for disappointment. So let's just go in blind and enjoy the ride, man.
And the fact that Dan Aykroyd came to John Landis with a 360-page script or something.
Oh my
it wasn't even a script. It wasn't even script format. He had written it was a story, he'd written a story, and John Landis pares this down to what we have, to an actual feature-length script. So much credit to Landis for sure. Because he pulled it off, and it's one of
because really the biggest obstacle for him was John Belushi, because he was such a wild card. I mean those stories are starting to come out with the rampant drug use. It literally find Belushi crashed at random people's houses. So just to be able to get a performance out of him like they did, that's that was definitely teamwork to get that done.
100%.
Yeah, for sure. One exercise that we always do on the show, we're, as a movie club, since we're trying to broaden people's horizons and get people to watch movies, even when there's a movie that we come across that we maybe didn't like, we still like to play the part of someone who's trying to get someone to watch, the movie. And so in those cases, it's like, well, what's your elevator pitch for this movie? Why would someone watch this even if you didn't enjoy that? Of course, I think all of us enjoyed this movie, and this is a yes, across the board. So this wouldn't be the case. So if you were sharing this movie, what would be the scene that you show somebody?
For me, it's Aretha in the diner. That's the thing that that was the turning point for me. Right when, Bill had to go to bed, that's when I was like, yes, this is the scene. I wish he could have stayed up to watch this, because this was it. This was the scene for me. That was the one where I was into it, like Tyler talked about, but once we got that, I was like, okay, this is cool. This movie knows what it's doing with the people that it has in it. I just think that's the perfect scene, because we get to meet some of the other members of the band, and we kind of get to see the meta-ness and the kind of the silliness of the movie. That'd be it for me. It would be the Aretha scene for sure.
Yeah. I like you said, that's when the movie swung for me. That's when I really started to enjoy it. But when I think about this question, I try to think about what scene is the least spoilery, which one has the least potential for spoiler and most accurately depicts what you could expect from the movie. And that's why I picked their performance, the Chicken Wire performance, with Bob's Country Hideaway or whatever. I don't know.
Bob's Country Bunker.
Bunker, that's right. Bob's Country Bunker.
What a great name.
And it's just like, the clever caper of it, and then the silly chase afterwards, and the actual performance, them winning over the crowd, and they don't even sing any blues songs. They show their wit and their moxie and their musical capabilities. It's like you can actually believe these guys are a band after seeing that show. Mm-hmm. And so if they were me, I would try to show them that. I don't think Dan Aykroyd says it's a mission from God anywhere in there, but I want people to see that because I just think it's so silly. So I think I'd show them the trailer and then that scene.
What about you, Jason?
Great stuff, guys. I'm listening to you guys is so descriptive and just so spot on, and I'm rethinking my answer constantly. If I were not selfish, I would choose the gospel scene in the beginning, because it kind of gives you a little bit of all the elements where you have them. You get a sense, okay, they're brothers, obviously going to the Three Rocks Church. Is that what it's called? Something along those lines. And we have James Brown.
Yeah,
the minister who's wonderful. And they just kick into the full on gospel. Isn't Chaka Khan like the lead?
Yep.
I mean, another cameo. What are we doing here? It's brilliant. I think it's insane how many brilliant people are in this movie, and just in many small parts too. But it goes over the top because you have wonderful dance choreography. Now we have the kind of fantastical element, kind of because the light of God is shining upon Joliet Jake Blues, and he has the epiphany. And he's like, the band, the music's going. We literally have extras, wonderful dancers jumping off trampolines, apparently. It's wild. Living up in concert with the music. And it's all like this one, it's maybe a microcosm of the film in a whole, right? It's all these things all at once. Again, wonderfully directed, wonderfully edited, wonderfully performed. And my personal favorite, and I absolutely freaking love this, is give me John Belushi doing flips or any kind of gymnastics any time of the day, because
that's actually him, right?
I think some of it is.
I
think they clearly cut away for some. You can see where they cut.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that they didn't do anything silly with rear projection or anything like that, where it's like, okay, we get it. It's probably a stunt guy doing it, but they cut it smartly, at least. Mm-hmm. They didn't try to overdo the editing with that. It's almost funnier that way to me. Mm-hmm. Where it's like all of a sudden he's breaking out into gymnastics going down the aisle. And they're the only two white guys there, and everybody embraces him. And it's just wonderful. So I think that kind of encapsulates the whole thing in that particular scene. If I were selfish, I just show him my favorite scene, which is just the entire finale, because it's the most ridiculous, amazing car stunt, stupid. One other great. Speaking of, we talked about the elevator scene from Drive. This is actually the best elevator scene of all time. It's at the finale of the Blues Brothers.
It's right up there with Civil War, or no? What's the?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
No, Winter Soldier.
Right.
Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
Cap.
That'd be a good Rushmore. Maybe like The Departed.
Elevator scenes.
Elevator scenes. That's great. Good. But so selfish pick would be the entire chase at the finale. But definitely, if I wanted somebody to understand what the movie's all about, probably show them the gospel scene.
Yeah,
nice.
That fits my criteria. So you have my stamp of approval.
You got time.
And it's actually probably a better pick than mine, by my own criteria. So kudos, well done.
I'm going to share. You can edit this out if you want. I'm going to share a little side story about Bob's Country Bunker.
I couldn't do that to you.
That one of my favorite songs, and there's so many wonderful, brilliant, beautiful in blues songs on this track, Rawhide. I love the theme from Rawhide.
Yeah.
And at the University of Miami, which Bill had mentioned, he and I both attended, went to the film school there. I was taking an acting class with James Randolph III. And speaking of thirds,
nice.
And wonderful acting instructor. One of our exercises for class was we had to sing a song for 30 seconds. That was it. We just had to get up, and none of us were singers in that. And I mean, I don't think, but I chose to sing the theme from Rawhide.
Nice.
That's amazing.
Because of
That's
so
great.
there's both sides story. I freaking love that song. It makes me laugh every time I hear it. And so I love that scene too, Tyler. That's a great that scene with all the chicken wire and all the glass breaking. I wonder how many little pieces of glass go through the. I mean,
oh man,
like would
enough,
you
I'm sure.
just get sliced up? Man, that's rough.
We play both kinds of music, country and western.
That line is so good.
For me, one of my favorite scenes is the mall chase scene. Just because here is their mission from God is to raise $5,000 to save this orphanage, and they do $5 million worth of damage in this mall, and it's just this. It's such a great action piece. I mean, they're really ripped through the mall, and it's just the dry humor of like, oh, look, the new Oldsmobiles are in. And they just tend to smash every storefront in that mall. I just laugh every time. It's just they purposely seem to take all of them out. And it's just it's something you never saw before.
Right.
A chase taking place in a mall. Who thinks of that? That's just great. So I just think
it's fun.
I mean, overall, you would think they were trying to raise $5,000, and God knows, $10 million worth of damage for $5,000. But because they're on a mission from God, nothing was going to stop them from doing
Exactly.
this. So, yeah, just their dry humor, where it's just Elwood is just so nonchalant, like, "Yep, I get chased by cops all the time. It would be okay." Which made me think, I'm like, Elwood Blues might be one of the best getaway drivers of all time. I don't know.
Just so cool-headed.
Yeah.
Well, even when
call.
he gets picked up and Jake talks shit about the car.
What's this? What? This car. This stupid car. Where's the Cadillac?
And then Elwood makes the bridge jump. He's like, "You still hate the car?" He's like, "No, it's cool." It's just like he's just like deadpan the whole time. Just like, "All right, I'll show you why I got this car." Like it was great. It was a great scene.
Mine would have to be Sweet Home Chicago.
Yeah.
When they're performing that
Great
number.
call.
I just feel like, I mean, there's plenty of fanfare in this movie, but one of the best parts of the sketch on Saturday Night Live was just, I mean, Dan and John doing what they do and their moves and all that. And I feel like it was on full display, firing on all cylinders during that song.
For sure.
That'd be the scene that I would show. A close second would actually be the conversation in the car after that Ben just mentioned, after he picks him up from prison, just like where's the caddy?
Yeah.
But I feel like that scene, as much as I love that scene, it doesn't give you like a full view of, what you're in for and what you get to experience. All right, so we're going to go back into the visualization exercise.
Ooh, my favorite.
You're held at gunpoint.
This is not as relaxing.
Jesus.
Someone has
What the hell?
Just jumped right
You're in
into
Chicago.
it.
I'm sweating now. Come on,
You're in
man.
Chicago. You're held at gunpoint.
Okay,
and
Chicago, that's better.
the guy behind the gun screams, "Recast Jake and Elwood Blues." And you have to pick somebody. No one wants to do this. There's no way you're going to pick anyone better for those roles. We already know that. That's not the point. The point is you need to save your life, and you have to recast them. And so that would be. I mean that's the game we're playing. It's a game of life. Bill, who are you casting as Elwood and Jake Blues?
Man, there's another one I always stress about because I'm so bad at recasting. All the time we're just going to hear bang. But for me,
he's going to be like, wrong.
So I'm trying to go, if we're making the movie right now, who would I cast right now if we're making it in this year? So for Elwood, I came up, another SNL alumni, Bill Hader. I saw
nice.
You stole mine.
Yeah,
oh, did I? Sorry.
That's okay. I've got another one. You're good. That's a fantastic pick.
Jake was the hardest one because I'm like, I kind of need someone who sings because I mean, Belushi sings in the film and he sings well.
Mm-hmm.
So for Jake, I came up with James Corden.
Okay.
So then you still have the contrast in tall and skinny, small and
Yeah, he's got the same physicality. Like it was interesting watching this. You're like, oh yes, this is exactly where Chris Farley got everything that he did was from Belushi. So I'm like, that, you know, if you're remaking this in the 90s, like, yeah, you put Farley in that for sure. Like that'd be awesome. But yeah, I think Corden works. You know, he has a voice. You know, he's like not afraid of like the comedies and doing that kind of stuff. So I think that works. I didn't pick Bill Hader, but like I was hoping someone would because I think he was a great choice. And
such a good
great.
Yeah, that's awesome.
What about you, Jason?
You know, in the role of Elwood, God, it was tough. I'm going to go with Vince Vaughn.
Oh, nice.
Just because I think he can play, you know, he tends to be silver tongue. Like he's very quick.
Yeah.
Not that Elwood is necessarily that fast, but I think Vince Vaughn can play that dry delivery pretty well. And he can give it a certain attitude, which I would like to see. And then for Jake Blues, I would probably go, man, you know, Jonah Hill was like on the tip of my tongue, but somebody that could sing, like Bill said, I'm going to go with Josh Gad.
Okay.
I like that.
I think, you know, he just kind of fits the type, I guess, if you were just kind of going based on, you know, type, but he obviously can sing.
That's awesome.
And I'm a big fan of, oh my gosh, I'm blanking on from Frozen. What's the snowman?
Olaf?
Yes, thank you.
Olaf, yeah.
And you are...
I'm Anna.
And who's the funky-looking donkey over there?
That's Sven.
Uh-huh. And who's the reindeer?
Sven.
Oh, okay. Make things easier for me.
That's awesome.
Those are great picks.
So I'm going with Vince Vaughn and Josh Gad.
Okay.
Awesome.
My main thing is I just wanted to keep it for some reason with the SNL people. And one of my favorite recent sketches, you know, in the past few years is one that's called Dyke and Fats, and it's with Adie Bryant and Kate McKinnon. And they basically play cops in that, but they just play off each other really well. It's like, I think both of them are hilarious. They do a lot of sketches together, like the cat adoption. They do everything they do is always so funny to me. So yeah, I don't know. I kind of wanted to see that. I was just trying to think of like who's in the SNL family that's still, I don't know if they were on SNL when they did this. Were they off of SNL at that point, or were they still doing it? Because I know this was from an SNL sketch, but I don't remember if
during the movie they were off, I think, at this point.
Okay, gotcha. So
I'm not totally sure though.
Nope, it's 100% right. It's what it is, Matt. That's what it's got to be. It's on. You recorded
That's
it.
Right. That's right.
But yeah, that's kind of where I went with it. I'm like, well, I want some SNL people. There's plenty, like, you know, Con Mooney and Beck Bennett, like they play off each other really well, but I just didn't see this being that their kind of humor, so to speak. So yeah, I'd go with Kate McKinnon and Adie Bryant for mine.
Nice.
That's great.
That.
Tyler.
Oh, so Bill Hader was stolen from me, but that's okay. That's okay.
We got to keep Bill alive, you know?
So when I was watching this, I was sort of recasting it and also rewriting it because I didn't want to recast Blues Brothers. I wanted to like repurpose Blues Brothers. I couldn't really pin it down, but I wanted to see Bill Hader and Seth Rogen doing something like this, you know, saving the day sort of thing. I don't know if Seth Rogen necessarily, I think he could do everything. But as soon as you guys started talking about people that could actually sing, I started to second guess. I don't know if he can sing. It's possible that he can. He's a wonderfully talented man. But anyways, I couldn't figure out like, well, what style of music would Seth Rogen and Bill Hader do? And so I had to scrap it. I've been scrambling. I think for my Elwood, I'm going to go with another Seth Rogen related person. I'm going to say James Franco. Okay. I think he could pull the straight. He's been the straight man before. I think he can do it. I just like James Franco. And for my Jake, I don't know. I was scrambling through lists of people that are like John Belushi. I found an interesting list on BuzzFeed, but I'm kind of, I don't know. For some reason, I want to say Jordan Peele. I don't know why. Ooh, cool. I just think it would be interesting. I like him. I think he could do the physical performance of it. I think he could do the singing. And I mean, he had a comedy sketch show for years, so I know he can be funny. And he can work off of another person. So I'm gonna slate Jordan Peele in there.
I like
Love
that.
Last minute scramble.
No, it's great. Great scramble. Great audible.
Yeah,
audibled.
Great. And honestly, awesome. Like when Jason threw out Vince Vaughn, I was like, oh, I want the Swingers version of Blues Brothers.
That's funny because now I want the Key and Peele version.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, it'd be so good. Like,
I should have why didn't I just cast both Key and Peele? I'm an idiot.
I don't know. We'll edit it. Yep, Key and Peele.
I'm taking James Franco out. Sorry, James.
That'd be great. Yeah.
I'm so dumb. Why didn't I do that?
If only Jordan Peele had worked with someone on a regular basis, that'd be good to pair.
That fits up perfectly.
I was going Franco.
Oh well, you gotta get another beer.
You said that.
Yeah, I said, bitch. Now I laid it out.
But you said bitch though. You said bitch.
Yeah.
So mine, I have two, because one of mine is like more of a direct recast. And then another one is kind of a remix, sort of that Tyler was alluding to, where I'm not necessarily recasting the roles as much as I am doing a new Blues Brothers with two new actors that have their own thing going on. But so my first one would be, the safe one would be Jason Sudeikis as Elwood.
Okay.
I look at him as to me, he's kind of the Aykroyd of his class, I would say. With the roles that he has and sort of his range. But Sudeikis is Elwood. And then I would take and this actor would have to put on some weight, but I would take Michael Pena as Jake.
Yes.
I like that.
Michael Pena.
That's so good.
So that's my safe choice. But in the SNL arsenal, a couple of guys that I like seeing collaborate currently, contemporarily, right now, that I think would make a really funny Blues Brothers movie is Pete Davidson and Timothy Chalamet. I'd love to see those two dudes.
Out of the box. Yeah.
It'd be an interesting watch.
I'd love to see those two dudes save their orphanage.
The skinny white boy orphanage.
Well, Pete Davidson seems to have that like Belushi wild card energy. You know what I mean? He sort of has that same like lovable.
It wouldn't be Belushi, but it would be his own. Crazy.
Yeah, his
the
version
same energy.
Of it.
Yeah.
It's crazy. You said Sudeikis, and for some reason I had a thought that I hadn't had the whole time before this. I'm like, oh, Horatio Sands would be a really good Jake as well. Like he was so funny on SNL. Sudeikis was a great straight man. Like even like Will Forte, any of those old SNL guys, they just like work so well together. But I don't know. If I had a second one, I'd throw Horatio in there because I miss Horatio.
Great stuff, guys. I love the female casting too. And I just want to give a brief shout out to the ladies of SNL as well. I know there were some, people have been mentioning them throughout this podcast, but a friend of Bill and I's had just brought up randomly in a conversation the other day, Sherry O'Terry. I was a huge fan
funny
when she had her run, which was really strong. And
Kristen Wiig's been one of my favorites ever since I first laid eyes on her. She's probably on my Crushmore. She's just Bridesmaids is one of my all-time favorites. Like,
I mean, speaking of, I got thinking about when I was doing the SNL stuff, like Maya Rudolph, like she's always funny, and like whatever it is she's doing, she's fantastic in it. So so many great people have
Molly Shannon.
Yeah. If you haven't watched White Lotus, watch White Lotus. Molly Shannon's awesome in it. She's so good.
It's on my list.
I want to say I've heard that. Yeah,
and the new one, the other two, the other HBO show where she's like the mom of Molly Shannon's the best.
I guess to end the episode, we need to go into our Rushmore round.
These are OR scrubs.
Oh, are they?
We select our top 4 movies, and the theme this week is the best Chicago movies. And so, Jason or Bill, whoever wants to go first, your top 4 Chicago movies.
Can I count Blues Brothers? Of course.
Of course.
Of course, yeah.
So, my 4 would be Blues Brothers, The Fugitive.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and Risky Business. So that'd be my
nice.
4.
Nice.
That's a great pick.
What about the man from Chicago?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I wasn't, it's funny. I for some reason skipped over the whole Rushmore part, and I just went to, I'm just going to list best Chicago movies. I don't give a shit. I'm going to put them all on the on the mountain. But I put Ferris Bueller's has to be in there for me. Just has to. I mean, they literally visit so many iconic spots in Chicago within the movie, and it's part of the story, which is fantastic. You still get that the Richard Daley, the square with the Picasso, also in Ferris Bueller's Day Off. You get the what's now called the Willis Tower, but the Sears Tower back then. Leaning up against the glass. I mean, just that stuff. It's all great Chicago stuff. But I love Running Scared. One of the early buddy cop movies from 1986 with Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines. Love that as a Chicago movie. And we just did on the All 80's Movie Podcast. We did the Adventures in Babysitting.
Oh, cool.
Which
great episode, great movie.
Oh, thank you so much. We appreciate that. And that was just great because I became a kid again, just remembering what it was like to travel from the suburbs into downtown Chicago, right? And truly what an adventure that could be as a kid. You're just seeing the big city through a kid's eyes. It's becomes a fantasy, and you see it so innocently. So how would I say? So I said Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Running Scared, Adventures in Babysitting. I'm going to agree with Bill. I got to go with Risky Business. Nice. Because for sure.
Solid pick.
Again. For sure. And I'd written down an honorable mention for more recent films shot in the Chicago city because I'm a Nolan head or Nolan fan. The Dark Knight. Yeah. Some great Chicago stuff in there.
I really wanted to put that on my list. I only kept it off. Not that there's any real rules, but because it's not technically Chicago. And you wrote that on your note there. But
right, yeah.
It's like Chicago is such a photogenic city. The only time I've been there, I was actually there when the Cubs were on their way to win the World Series, which was really cool.
Outstanding.
It's the only time I've been there. If you're going to go to Chicago, go when the Cubs are good. It's a whole lot of fun.
Feel the energy.
It's a narrow window for the last 100 years, but even there, you made it. It's good.
I just remember thinking, like, everywhere you look, I'm a photographer, so everywhere I looked was you could literally not even look, and you could just point your camera, and you'd get a good shot. So, and the Dark Knight uses that, beautifully, especially because it's all dark, it's all at night and everything. But I had to put Ferris on mine as well. Like, when I think about Chicago, I think about Ferris Bueller. It's just to me, he has to be on a Chicago movie Rushmore. I mean, he doesn't have to be. He has to be on mine. And then High Fidelity is another favorite of mine. It's kind of funny. It sort of breaks my rules. Like, I don't think of Chicago when I think of High Fidelity, but I love that movie. And I know, Chicago has a lot to do with it, but I just more think of like the music and how silly Jack Black is. Christmas Vacation, I think of the Griswolds, Chicago and the Griswolds. And Christmas Vacation is one of my favorite movies ever. And then Stranger Than Fiction. I've always been a huge fan of Stranger Than Fiction. And I threw Backdraft on there mainly just because I don't even know if it's one of my favorite Chicago movies, but I wanted it to be represented because it's a movie that we found with this club and this exploration format that I enjoyed a whole hell of a lot more than I thought I was going to. I didn't know what I expected going into it, but I had a lot of fun watching it. And so, that'll be my 4. Yeah, I'll put Backdraft on there.
Okay.
Backdraft was one of my nominees. So
that's nice.
High Fidelity, Christmas Vacation, Stranger Than Fiction, and Backdraft.
It's a cool list.
I like that. My joke answer was just gonna be Ferris 4 times because it's my favorite movie in the entire world. I'm wearing my Cameron shirt right now. Like I love Ferris Bueller. My second joke answer was just gonna name 3 John Hughes movies because that's like all he does. Sure. It's just but seriously, I'll do obviously Ferris. It's got to be the number 1 spot. Kind of continuing with the John Hughes thing. Uncle Buck, I think, is so good. Like, it was fun to see John Candy in this. Even like when he shows up in some of the weirdest roles like JFK or Home Alone or stuff like that, just like these little cameos, but like, he's always great. But I love Uncle Buck. More recently, Widows was really good. I don't know if anybody here has seen it, but it was a wonderful movie. So much better than I anticipated. And then I had Stranger Than Fiction also. I think that movie is great, but I want to do one that maybe hasn't already been mentioned. So I think I'm going to go with The Untouchables because that's a very Chicago movie.
Call. I can't believe I missed that one. That's such a great call.
I mean, it's I don't know. It's awesome performances from everybody in that. It's like essential Chicago, as far as like the Prohibition, all that kind of stuff. So, I go with the Untouchables. So Ferris, Uncle Buck, Widows, and The Untouchables.
Nice.
Love it.
Great call. That just made me think of also because like period Chicago movie, Road to Perdition. There's some good stuff in there too.
Yeah, that's good.
Just beautifully shot.
Yeah, and I had honorable mentions like obviously Breakfast Club is awesome. Also recently The Big Sick. That's a really fun movie. When I was looking up stuff, I didn't realize Airplane. I kind of forgot that they were on their way to Chicago because I don't really think about it in that sense. As far as like laugh per minute movies, Airplane has to be up there. Like it's just one of the funniest movies of all time, in my opinion.
Can you fly this plane and land it?
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
So for the sake of variety, I'm leaving Ferris off of mine, but I probably will get hate mail for that. From Ben.
I'm going to send it.
Ben will send me hate mail for that. But I am including Blues Brothers. Got to throw in Home Alone.
Yeah.
My Best Friend's Wedding. And then, you know what? A movie that has Michael Jordan and Bill Murray in it. We're going to go Space Jam.
That's true. That's true. Two of Chicago's finest.
But good so thanks for playing along on our little Rushmore segment. And thanks again for coming on with us. It was a blast talking with you guys. I want to give you guys another opportunity to plug your pod.
We are called All 80's Movies Podcast. And you can find us, if you just go to Buzzsprout, you can find us. We are on all major streaming platforms. I shouldn't say all, but most of the major streaming platforms. So go to your standard, wherever you like to listen to your podcasts, be it Apple, Pandora, Spotify, Google, just to name a few. But guys, this has been an absolute blast discussing this wonderful Chicago movie with you guys. Thank you so much for having us and giving us this opportunity to share our love of film with you guys. You guys are consummate pros. You put on a great production here, and it's been fun to be a part of it. But
thanks, man. Thank you.
Yeah. So just to throw in, again, All 80's Movies Podcasts. That's Bill Bant, myself, Jason Masick. We try to get a new episode out every Friday. We just had done Adventures of Babysitting. What do we have coming up, Bill?
Star Trek 2.
The Red
Club.
Nice.
And, Remo Williams' The Adventures Begin. And then, of course, in October, I'm sure no other podcast has thought of this. We're going to do a month of horror movies.
Oh, really? Whoa.
No one else has thought of
We're
this.
stealing that idea.
Yeah, write that idea down.
So hopefully nobody steals that idea for horror movies in October. But,
80s horror movies.
80s classic horror movies.
Yeah, that's the way to go. This past year, I discovered The Thing for the first time. And man, that movie is so good. I love that movie. Thanks you guys for coming on. This was a lot of fun. I'm excited to talk Stan and Ollie whenever we can finally get around to it.
That would be very cool. We would love to come back anytime, John.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks everyone, and we will catch you next week.
See ya.
You're still here? It's over. Go home. Go.